We're goats.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Aaron Live, your favorite, or maybe it's just my favorite Sunday show. That was, of course, the trailer to Wraith of God 3, Fear Hollow, my current campaign on Indiegogo. You'll find a link in the description of this video. Today, we have a guest who I'm not going to bring on for a while because he came early and then said he came early because I'm always late. So I'm not sure the correlation there, but he's in timeout for a couple minutes anyway. But he has some announcements he wants to make. And I said, let's platform you. He asked me to come on. I said, absolutely, you can. So we'll be getting to Sequential Treasures in just a moment. But first, let's see who's here in the chat joining us on this fine day. Well, maybe fine someplace. It's like raining and cloudy here, typical Oregon weather. Sequential Treasures, look at that. First, give me my no prize, please. You get it. You get your no prize for being first. And he was first. He was here before me. Creative Faye. Hi, Aaron. Sounds like a great lineup. We shall see. We shall see, Creative Faye. But thanks for joining us. Barbara Paulson's joining us. Repairman Jack, Stealth X5, Randy Howell, all the way from Canada. He says many people that think that Bigfoot doesn't exist. Yeti does. Get it? Yeti does. What have I got for that? Oh, maybe this. Boo. Yeah. Let's see here. Leg Kick is here because Leg Kick, of course, is almost always here. Glitch. He says, why is Kelsey on the thumbnail? Where is Kelsey? Past Master Dan joining us. Bretsky the Great. Citizen Ronin's here. Toshiro is joining us. Monkey Boy 1969. Not to be confused with Mr. Monkey. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, it is. It's the same person. Sorry, I was just reading it wrong. Mr. Monkey Boy 1969 is indeed Mr. Monkey Boy 1969. We've now cleared that up. Angela Chocolates Curry is here. Thanks for joining us, Angela. We always enjoy having you aboard. Repairman Jack is joining us. Marcus Killigrew, purveyor of all things pop culture knowledge, is in the chat. A lot of salutations being thrown about there. Stealth X5 joining us. Thank you, Stealth. Yeah, Angela says it's going to be dark at 4:45 tonight. Boo! Oh, God, that sucks. I know. And it's still dark when I get up. So it's like, what have we really accomplished here? Anti-Entity is joining us. Thanks for joining us, Auntie. Duck Bacon. Excuse me. Coram is here. Michael Bancroft, all the way from Australia. Oh, my gosh. I sent a package out today to New Zealand. Oh, my gosh. Talk about taking it. Wow. Super expensive. Anyway, we want to save you guys money on international shipping, but it's like impossible. It's so expensive. Crazy. Anyway, who Who else we got here? Halder 6480 is joining us. Best Age Comics. Hi, Mr. Lepresti. I'm waiting to be entertained. Well, you're going to be waiting a long time, probably. You better make sure you're comfortable. Let's see. Who else we got? Anyone? Bueller? John Porton joining us. Thanks for joining us, John. Squeaky. Where's Geek Avenger? Squeaky's here. Where's Geek? He's got to be down here. If I keep scrolling, eventually we'll find him. There's Zaid Comics. That's Phil Diaz, everybody. You know, he did my trailer for me. He did it in record time, like 3 days or something. It was amazing turnaround and a great trailer it is. Thank you, Phil, for that. Well, John Porton capping on Kelsey. I'm not going to read that because I'm a nice guy. Jim Cox is there. Let's see here. There's Stealth X5 for $2. Hello, Stealth. Thank you for that. I've come to know and enjoy your $2. Thank you very much. And expect, I guess. Know, enjoy, and expect your $2. Then there'll come a day when you don't give me the $2 and I'll cry like a baby. Past Master Dan, of course, says Aaron's middle name is entertainment. That's why he doesn't use it. Oh, man, that was good, but I don't care. There you go, Past Master Dan. That was for you. All right. So, yeah, Angela says Aaron's sweatshirt reminds me I need to buy Aaron some more chocolate treats. Woo, I know. Nebraska once again disappointed and fell to the lowly UCLA Bruins at home, for crying out loud. What is wrong with my Huskers? Anyway, enough of that. I was depressed yesterday. Today I'm happy and joyous. Let's see, everybody. There's Doc Brewski. He's saying hello to Angela. You know, whose show is this anyway, Doc? Jeez. Nick Axe is here. Okay, let's get this show rolling. Should I bring him in yet? You know, I'm going to wait just one more second. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I want to let everybody know. I just want to get some more, the stuff out of the way here. I have been shipping Kit Carter like crazy. When I say that, it's like I've been shipping out the Kit Carter Completist boxes. It takes anywhere from 7 to 10 minutes for me to put that thing together, get it taped up and shipped. So it's not like I can't like burn through them. I'm trying to, but I'm getting as many done as I can. But I am working relentlessly this weekend, except for the 3.5 hours I wasted watching Nebraska get beat. Other than that, and when I get off the show, back to packaging. Monday, tomorrow, all day we'll be packaging. And we're going to do that because I want to get Kit Carter, the rest of Kit Carter, shipped out. It's hanging over my head. You guys are been waiting very patiently, and I appreciate it. Those of you who don't know, the hardcovers are in. They came in last week on Halloween night at 11 o'clock at night. Can you freaking believe that? 11 o'clock at night. But they kept trying to say, oh, bring it in Friday. I said, no, you promised me Thursday. I don't care how late it is. I want them Thursday. And they brought them in Thursday at 11 o'clock at night. So anyway, and they're fine. They're in great shape. In fact, there's one right there. Bagged by my dear old mother. Not boarded because kind of dumb to board a hardcover, but they are bagged. And of course, you all know the soft cover. Many of you have received your copies of those. So that's pretty much the two big books that now everything is together. And everybody that had hardcover orders, they're getting shipped out. There'll be a huge shipment going out tomorrow. And then I will continue to work relentlessly throughout the week and the next 2 weeks and hopefully get everything sent out. So there you go. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I want to also remind everybody there's only 7 days left till my actual for realsy closeout on Wraith of God 3, Fear Hollow. Let's take a look at that real quick. There it is. We've only got a measly 792 backers. I thank you guys, all of you guys that have backed so far. And I mean that you're not measly, but I'm saying the overall number, small. I I know Biden is taking a big bite out of everybody, but we want to get this at least up to 1,000 backers before the closeout in a week. So tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your enemies to back the best indie graphic novel of the last 5 to 10 minutes. So you want to get on the train here. This is number 3, The Wraith of God and Esther Face the Headless Horseman. You have 4 cover options right there. Wraith of God, Fear Hollow, that's cover A. You can go cover B if you're a vintage guy and like EC Comics. This is the EC Comics tribute. If you're vintage, but you don't go back that far, you can get the 1972 retro Marvel cover. Or if you're an artistic purist and you want a painted cover, you can get Chris Stevens' wonderful painted cover. But you know what else you can do? You can go to the 4-pack plus if you look just to the right of your screen there, and you will see that you can get all 4 covers plus, all 4 covers plus the Ruff's sketchbook, which there's David Williams' backup story that'll only appear in this book if we hit 100K. So let's go, people. You can get the Wraith of God Nouveau print. There it is, Wraith of God Ruff's Volume 3. This has page layouts for 48 pages of the graphic novel. So it's kind of, you can, peel the curtain back, if you will, kind of look at the process. So that's a good book to have. You can get that, of course, in the 4-pack plus. We have our 4th shot glass. Wow. Our 4th shot glass in the series of 6. There's been The Wraith, there's been Garbage Man, there's been Kit Carter. Those are shipping right now, by the way. And Nightclub will be the 4th out of 6 Empire Comics logo shot glasses. So you want to collect the whole set of 6 because they'll become a holder will be the last portion that you'll be able to get to put all your shot glasses in. You can get 3 clay poker chips, a commemorative set featuring the Wraith, Esther, and Dale Keown's Werewolf. And if you missed out, you can get Wraith of God second printing, number 1, with a new cover, or Wraith of God 2, the wraparound Blood Hunters, or you can go to my website and pay a little bit more money and get all the cover options and get it right away. Rather than waiting for this campaign. So you have many, many options. The link is in the description of this video to this campaign, as well as my website, and as well as to the YouTube channel of Sequential Treasures, who now I will introduce to you once I get rid of this. If I can hit the right freaking button. There we go. I'm going to love him. His name is James, but he's also known as Sequential Treasures. And he's got, like he said, he's got a big announcement to make today. So I'm dying to find out what that is. And of course, we'll let him stick around and we'll do the whole show and, and go through the fun stuff and get his always biting commentary. So everybody welcome, please, Sequential Treasures. There you are. Hey, James. This is the kind of disrespect that I expect. Who was asking for entertainment earlier?
Just bring up the production values for you,
Aaron. I appreciate that, because we are low on production value. That is for sure.
I would have got the strobe lights out, but I thought it might have been a little too much.
No, it looks low. It was very, very tripping there. I wasn't sure what to expect for a second there, but it all came together very nicely. So good for you.
Well, it's my triumphant return to your channel. So I mean, how could I not do a musical intro? I mean, to quote a well-known Peanut Brain, come on, man.
Come on, man. Well, before we get to your big announcement, what I want to get to in a second, I do want to take a moment and take a look at the Frazetta image of the day. We've been going through Frazetta and looking at his Brack the Barbarian paintings. Kind of, I don't know if they're lesser known paintings, but perhaps very much so a lesser known character than Conan or some of the other, Death Dealer and things like that he's done. So we're going through his, I think there's 4 of them. This is number 3. So let's take a look at our Frazetta image of the day before we move on. Here we go. That, of course, was Green Death from 1967, a Brack the Barbarian painting, although I could not dig up a book cover that it was actually on. So I'm not sure. I can't dig too deep into the origins or the reasons for that painting to exist, but my guess is there must be some. There probably is a book out there that I just could not find that has that on the cover of it, but that is it's a solid Frazetta outing. I mean, you've got some nice elements in the background. You had the evil wizard at the top of the stairs. You had a girl. I don't know if you noticed her or not, but kind of pretty much the same color as.
No, I don't think anyone noticed the naked woman in the background there.
Well,
I think that was totally oblivious to everybody.
She was the same color as the background to kind of knock her back a little bit, but there she was laying in the background. And there was also some sort of like weird altar thing back there that was holding an incense burning type thing. So a lot of little elements in there that actually made that kind of an interesting painting. It's, like I said, it's not one of my favorite Frazettas, but it's a solid Frazetta outing. So there you go. That's our
I'm just wondering how she ended up naked. That's all I'm questioning. It's if she's in the background, had like some kind of like outfit on, right? She was passed out. She was going to be sacrificed, whatever. But she was naked. It's like, what was going on before that snake came out and he had to kill it? What was happening in that image?
Well, that you might be onto something there, but of course, back in those times, the barbarian days, there was a lot of naked women, especially in like temples and castles and stuff. That was pretty much the standard attire for the girls back then was nakedness. So, at least in Frazetta's world, that's for sure. Let me grab a couple super chats here. Geek Avenger for 5 says, sorry I'm late. The Pope said people shouldn't build border walls, so I asked him when he was going to start tearing down the walls of the Vatican. There you go. Anti-Entity for $2. Let the cannons fly. I always do. Any advice on ash can creation? Well, yeah. Don't show anything in your ash can that's going to be a spoiler in your comic, but find some images or some pages that are really going to sell it visually. So you got to find that kind of happy medium between not giving away too much, but making the book interesting to people that might want to buy it. Of course, you're going to be showing stuff in the ash can that they're not going to be able to see in the actual book, which is sometimes penciled pages, sometimes inked pages, sometimes half inked pencil pages are kind of fun. Things like that kind of give them a behind the scenes look. I don't know. You're going to probably want to go no more than 24 pages. You can go color or black and white on the interior. With digital printing, it's not that expensive anymore. So those are my advice to you on ash cans. For what
and the funny part about all that, Aaron, is not a single person was paying attention to any of it. They were all talking about the girl's rump.
I know. And why was she naked, laying there naked? What was the story behind that?
They were much more focused on talking about her rump than listening to any of your advice.
I know. And I think that's probably wise. The less you listen to me, the better you're going to be. Speaking of, half naked chicks, this is what I'm reading right now. I'm going back through Kull the Conqueror. This is the Dark Horse edition. So this has issues 1 through, what is that? 10, maybe? Let's see. Yeah, 1 through 9. 1 through 9. These are all the John Severin issues. Of course, issue number 1 is Ross Andrew, inked by Wally Wood. And there's also the Bernie Wrightson story from Creatures on the Loose, number 10, The Skull of Silence. So if you want some good barbarian reading, this is my favorite barbarian book, and I'm revisiting it as I do every so often. One other thing of note. Oh, go ahead.
It's curious that you just mentioned that because I'm just catching up on some of my reading, and I'm reading the new Conan book from Titan Comics, which is, I say it's easily the best new comic on the stands today. I've read nothing that is better than this. Robert De La Torre's art is beautiful. It's like the coloring of Frazetta mixed with John Buscema and Kerry Nord. It's just beautiful work, and it does get Frazetta-y like your image there, because there's a scene I just read in a recent issue where Conan's getting a little something, and they go to full bore. They'll show you straight up, and it's like, wow. So like, yeah, definitely want to check it out, folks. The Titan Comics Conan the Barbarian series, best comic out on the stands. You don't want to miss this. It's what Robert E. Howard would have wanted.
It's really, really good. I agree. And I've read the first story arc, and I want to get, I guess there's a trade, right? Of the first X amount of, at least that's my understanding.
The first 3 story arcs are in trade collection, yes.
Okay. So I'm going to have to pick that up because the artwork's tremendous. It is kind of a John Buscema sort of, in fact, when I first saw the issue, I was talking to the Titan people. I thought it was like, I go, are you reprinting Buscema here? And they're like, no, this is Robert De La Torre's, who, interestingly enough, worked on Ms. Marvel before I took over back in the old Marvel days. But anyway,
this art doesn't look anything like that art did.
No, it doesn't. It's amazing what he's doing. And I did get to meet Jim Zub, the writer at San Diego, talk to him for a little bit. He's buddies with Aaron Sparrow, who was sitting in my booth at the time. And so we chatted with him a little bit. Seems like a very nice guy. And I think this stuff is great. So
then the question is, when are we going to see the Aaron Lopresti variant cover on the Titans comic Conan series?
I don't know. They contacted me they came up to me at San Diego 2 years ago, not this last San Diego, but the year before, asked me if I'd be interested. I said, of course. I did all the paperwork, filled out all the stuff. They sent me back the forms. Everything was okay. Never heard from them again. So I don't know if I've been found out as a conservative or if they just had so many people they asked. They just haven't gotten to me yet. I have no idea. But there you have it. Now, speaking of like a long time ago, which I don't know that we were, but let's just pretend we were for the sake of that segue. Somebody talked to me at San Diego and said they had collected all of my sketchbooks that I've done over the years. Most of them self-published, of course, in low print run. And he showed me the list and he goes, do I have them all? And I said, well, you have every one except the very first one I did, which was called You've Never Seen This Before. And he said, well, do you know where I can get one? I said, I might have one extra copy laying around. And sure enough, I did. And he just bought it from me. But this is it. This was color Xerox on the cover. All right. This is like early 90s. And I think this might have been pre-sludge. No, this is 2000. I take it back. 2000 seems like early 90s to me, though. 2000. I can't believe it was that late. So anyway, it was 24 years ago anyway that I did this. And it's black and white on the inside. Shelley and I assembled these ourselves. Got one of those big, staplers that have the extensions on them so you could lay everything out flat and staple the spine. And so there's I think maybe 30 copies of these floating around. And so there you go. So he will be getting my last copy of that to complete his collection of Lopresti sketchbooks. So there you go.
I just want to know why you decided to use your famous line with women as your title for your book.
Well,
why would you want to keep your dream that way?
The truth is, the real truth is, don't be fooled by this rhetoric here that James is throwing out. The reality is, I had a very big chip on my shoulder because I'd always have people come up to me and they'd see my comic book stuff, which was generally done under pressure and, deadlines. And then they would see the stuff that I did, like that, the different illustrations, things like that. And they would like, I can't believe this, why don't, how come your comic book isn't as good as this or whatever? And so I put on there, well, this is stuff you've never seen before. And all of the first of my 3 sketchbooks all had sort of snarky titles on them, like that, taking pot shots at people that would always say, wow, I didn't know you could draw like that. In fact, I think I have one that says, I didn't know you could do that, or something like that is one of the titles. So, yeah. I'm a very angry man, James.
Yeah, I can't imagine why you're not more popular and people mistake you for Adam Hughes. I don't see how that happens.
I don't know. It happens. Randy Howell for $5 Canadian. Thank you, Randy. Aaron's favorite barbarian book is actually Kordrath the Awakening by Andy Smith. I keep forgetting that is true. We always talk about Conan, and I forget to bring up Kordrath the Reckoning, which, of course, is the sequel to the very successful, I almost said Conan, Kordrath the Awakening. which was the first issue, and Conan the Reckoning is the second. So you guys want to check that out. It's on Indiegogo as well right now, in demand, as I believe. So there you go. All right. So, James, before we get into the faux entertainment portion of the show, you emailed me and said, Aaron, can I come on your show? I got a couple of announcements I want to make. So you got some big news for us? What do you want to tell us?
Well, as you guys know, after last year with all my health concerns, I stopped the art repping thing, and now I'm focusing full time on YouTube. So I've been doing all kinds of stuff, creating videos and live streams and what have you. And so in an effort to create more content, I started something called the Sequential Art Showcase, where I get together with an artist and we each have a piece by them. I have a piece by them and they have a piece that they've kept. And we talk about their art and kind of give you like their philosophies on art, why they do what they do, et cetera, et cetera. And while that was good, I thought it was great. And I have a new one coming up soon. I thought that it's too limiting and it's too narrow a focus because there's not too many people, because I have to have a piece of art by them for them to be on the show. So I'm like, I need to broaden it out. And so I started another new show now called Creative Conversations, where I get together with just any creator and we just talk about stuff and what they're doing and what's what their philosophies on the work is and things like that. And I got the first one coming up this Tuesday on Election Day, no less, at 2:30 Pacific. So I'm getting in before everyone has all their votes.
Potentially people get depressed. Yeah,
that's right. Or so you can relax with this after you cast your vote. And I got a little promo I did here, so to give people the lowdown. So let me go ahead and here and share this up with Aaron. And there we go.
Why, it's you. Did you click on the right thing? Because I can't hear you. I can't hear it. No sound, James.
What's that?
Here's what you do. When you open it and present, share screen, open it in Chrome tab. Don't open up in Window. If you open up in Chrome tab, we'll be able to hear. All right,
let's try it again then. There we go.
Don't ever call me a boomer again. All right, let's try it again. Here we go.
Hey everybody, it's your man James, Sequential Treasures, back again here with a special announcement for you guys. As I'm trying to get more content up on here, I decided to start a new little show. And you guys know I got the Sequential Art Showcase that just recently started, where I talk to artists about their art. I own a piece and they own a piece of their art, and we talk about them. But I thought that that was kind of limiting because it would only be a small amount of people to talk to. And I wanted to start branching out further. I thought it would be more fun to have more people talking than less. So I've started a new show now called Creative Conversations, and where I get together with a comic book creator, be they artist, writer, editor, whatever, and we just sit and talk about their work and their philosophies on it, and whatever else may come up, because you never know what's going to happen in a nice little chit chat conversation. And I got my first one coming up here on the 5th of November here on this coming Tuesday, the very first one, and it's with Mike, the Bloody Red Baron himself, the legendary writer of Punisher and Flash, and Nexus. Just a ton of work. I mean, he's been in the industry for gone near 5 decades. I mean, he's just been working pretty much everywhere you could think of: Marvel, Dark Horse, Valiant, Image, DC. Anybody you can think of, he's been there. And we had a nice little chat, had talked about some work, including an upcoming work he has about to launch a crowdfunder for. So it's definitely going to be some fun stuff here. So I want you guys to be sure to check that out. Like I said, I've got it all set up, and it should be going live on Tuesday. And I'm having it set as a premiere video, so that way I can be in the chat with you guys, and maybe Mike himself, who knows, he might show up in the chat with us. You never know what could happen, but I want to have it so where you guys can be chatting with us live if you so desire. And like I said, I really hope you get something out of this, because I certainly enjoyed doing it, and I hope you guys get a little something fun out of it too. So again, mark your calendars there. November 5th at 2:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Times is when this is going to be launching. So I want you to check it out, and please give me your thoughts as always. So got any comments, got any criticisms, anything you got to say? I want to hear it. I want to hear from you guys, and thank you for joining me on this. And I look forward to seeing you this Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. I'll see you then, guys. Until then, take care.
Now, was that speeded up, or is that just you normally talking?
No, I speeded it up, Aaron. I figured we want to keep the show rolling, Aaron. We don't want the show to slow down.
Sorry about that.
No, I'm not on cocaine when I did that. No.
Randy Howell says, Aaron, tisk tisk, Cordrath the Awakening is volume 2. Are you sure? All right. Well, I screwed that up. Sorry, Andy. But Cordrath anyway. Cordrath, whatever he's doing. Okay. That's what I'm promoting. So James, that's obviously going to be on part of your regular YouTube channel link, right? So we go to Sequential Treasures and they can find these. You'll find a link in the description of this video. It'll take you right to James's YouTube channel, you want to like that stuff and you want to subscribe to it so you'll get all the notifications when he posts a new video. All right. Let me see what.
And as I said, I do have another sequential art showcase coming up, which I'll give an announcement here to you guys for that too as well. It's going to be with, funny enough, Andy Smith. We're going to be talking his art. I got a piece from him recently, and he's going to show one of his pieces. The reason I like doing this is because it usually brings out art that you haven't seen before. Because it's stuff that like you've held on to, Aaron, for example. There's stuff that nobody has ever seen anywhere. It's only in your flat files. No one else. Oh, where's this cover that Aaron did? Where's this page that Aaron did?
You've never seen this before.
That's right. And so I like doing the show because it brings out some art that you otherwise wouldn't even be able to see. So it's one of the reasons I do it. And so I got Andy coming up here. We're going to probably be recording it at the end of this week, and then I'll have it up sometime next week. And so there we go. So we got that coming as well. So there's lots of stuff I got going on, guys.
Well, make sure you clear up with Andy if it's the Awakening or the Reckoning, which came first. So
I believe Reckoning was first.
But it seems to me now like Awakening should have been first, right? So he wakes up, it's the introduction of Kordrath, and then he has the Reckoning, right? Where he's going to take revenge on whatever,
or it could be, hey, he got the Reckoning, and then as a result of what happened from the Reckoning, now he has an awakening to other things.
You could be right. That does make sense too. All right, I'll leave it there and just say that, okay. Because there's people that know more about the Reckoning and the Awakening than I do. So I don't, subtitles are not, if I can remember the actual title of the book, that's a plus. Expecting me to memorize the subtitle, forget about it. Anyway. Okay. James, let's move this show along, and we'll come back and revisit your announcements probably around near the end of the show, before Bigfoot time, to remind everybody. But right now, I know this is going to be a heated discussion, so let's get into it right away. I've been doing my top 5 every week, which is started in the golden age, and we've been through the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and now we're into my top 5 comics of the 80s. And you as well have some of your picks from the 80s. So let's run the intro.
And I came prepared today. Look at this. I'm wearing one of the biggest characters from the 80s right here.
Oh boy, did it make my list? We'll find out. Let's run the intro. All right. So are you going to post? Do you have images? Or are you just going to?
Yeah, I got my images set up. The best covers of the 80s. I got them set. So let me.
Yeah, bring up number 5. We'll do my 5 first. I'll do number 5 first for me. Then we'll take a look at number 5 for you, and we'll do it that way.
That'll work.
And,
there we go.
See if we bonk heads or not at all on this. All right, now here's the thing. Last week I did, because the 70s is what I grew up in. The 70s. That was
your time.
That was my time. And so it was very difficult for me to pick 5. So I had some honorable mentions and things like that. Dennis Turner of Kordrath, The Awakening, and The Reckoning fame chastised me for saying, well, then it's not really a top 5, is it? And I say to Dennis, shut up. Okay, here's the deal. I can have honorable mentions and it still be a top 5. Okay, because I had my top 5, but I had honorable mentions. It wasn't like a top 8. It was honorable mentions. Jeez, these X-Men guys, you know how they are, James. You can't, guys that worship the X-Men, you can't trust them. You can't trust them as far as you can throw them. And Dennis is he's an X-Men guy, so you just got to be careful around him. That's all I'm saying.
Well, the X-Men always had that whole mythology around them about the iron-fisted editors of the X-Men titles. So, I mean, can't get away with much with those guys.
Could be. All right, let's take a look at number 5 for me, and then we'll go to James, and then we'll discuss. Oh boy, I traded this one out. I'm not going to say what I traded it out for, because who knows? It might be on your list, and so I don't want to ruin anything. But at number 5 for me, this was a lot tougher. The 80s was a lot tougher than I thought it was going to be. Because when I actually started thinking about stuff that came out in the 80s, I was like, wow, there was some good stuff. I'm going with not the Rocketeer's first appearance, but this would be his third. This is the special edition Rocketeer that came out through Eclipse. This had like the full length kind of like story in it, and it was the first full length story. The first two Rocketeer stories were backup stories in the Star Slayer, the Mike Grell title, and then he came out with this, and this was kind of like the first full length experience of the Rocketeer, and I was like, the artwork's fantastic, the story's great. It's kind of got that old obviously that retro, 30s feel to it, and so it obviously didn't just resonate with me, but a lot of other people. But so I'm going independent with my my first pick and saying the Rocketeer Special Edition #1. There you go. What do you think of that, James?
Well, it's hard to go wrong with Dave Stevens' art, for one. I mean, what can you really say to be against that? But I gotta say, I'm kind of getting scared about the turn the show is taking. We had the Frazetta piece, and then you've never seen this before, and now we got here a naked Betty Page. I'm just kind of wondering what we're veering into in the show this week. It's
pure coincidence. It's absolutely pure, as Commodore Decker would say on Star Trek. Anti-proton, absolutely pure. And if you don't know what episode I'm talking about, you better get into Star Trek, the original series. I'm talking, of course, about the classic Doomsday Machine, infinitely quotable. And that is just one of the many quotes from that. So anyway, yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's take a look at what James has at his #5.
Yes.
Oh.
Action Comics #583. Now this, it's kind of funny when I look back at it now, because at the time it came out, this was like sort of the goodbye to the pre-crisis era of DC. This was like them saying goodbye to everything that had been. We're going to now revamp the whole universe, and that's what this is for. But then we think about more modern times, and we see how comics are doing now and how they're treating the characters. It's more like reflective now than it was then, because at least back then Superman was still Superman, and he isn't today. And so to say goodbye to him and we'll miss you is kind of like almost kind of like a sad, melancholy feeling you see seeing this cover. And again, it's just beautiful work by Swan and Anderson with layouts by Ed Hannigan. And just it's just a beautiful image, a sullen Superman sort of just flying off as everyone's wishing him well. Just a beautiful image, and again, like the turning of a page in history. And that's why I thought this was definitely something that is, I think, one of the greatest covers done ever, because of that, just for that aspect alone.
Well, and it's also an Alan Moore script. Now, what year was this?
86.
So this was the same year as Watchmen, but was it before or after Watchmen? Probably before, I would guess, but I'm not 100% certain. But pretty big year for Alan Moore. But yeah, I remember this was quite the talk of the comic shops back in the day when this came out. It's heretical to say this, but I don't know that I've ever read it. I've always wanted to read this, but I've never got around to reading it.
Well, if you go to read it, you have to read Superman 423 and then this issue, which is like a 2-part story that crossed through the 2 titles.
Okay. Did Alan Moore write both of them or just this one?
Yes.
He wrote both of them. Okay.
It was a 2-part story that he had done called Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
Now, was this part of regular continuity, or is it kind of an out of continuity story?
It's sort of like the last vestige of the pre-crisis era of comics for DC. Like, this isn't connected to like anything that came after it anyway. And it just sort of like a wrap up of like, from Crisis and everything else that had happened, all that year, setting up the new universe and everything, and before they revamped with John Byrne. So this was sort of like a story, sort of like to close the chapter on this era of Superman.
Gotcha. Okay, well, that's a good choice, and one I hadn't even thought about, but I couldn't really pick it for mine because, well, I haven't read it, so it wouldn't make my list, but certainly an important comic. I can't disagree. Let's take a look at #4. Okay, let's get rid of Superman here, and what have I got? Ooh, this is a good one. Of course, I'd say that I picked it myself. I should.
I would hope it's a good one for you, Aaron, if you picked it.
This was I remember this coming out. I was in film school, and this is when I was going to Golden Apple Comics on Melrose to pick up my comics every week or every couple of weeks whenever I was able to make it down there. And there was a real, even though I was in film school, I was really starting to get that sort of calling for comics again, which I had kind of left behind when I was 18 and said, I'm going to, become a filmmaker and blah, blah, blah. But here I was in 87 and near the end of my film school experience, starting to look at comics again and thinking, wow, maybe this is, I should get back into this, or I was never in it, but I mean, get back to the goal of attempting to get into it as a professional. But there was just some really cool stuff going on in that period of time. And I remember when this came out with the Zek art, and you could really pick the entire mini series, it wasn't a mini series, but it was a 6-part story that crossed over all the Spider-Man titles. So I just picked the first one because I remember the very first issue, Craven showing up and shooting him. And for a second you thought, did he just kill Spider-Man? What am I reading here? And then he buries him alive. And it's just like, it was like, whoa, I can't wait for the next installment of this. So all the covers were great and the story was great. And of course, Zek drew it. So it was just a great, great story arc. But I decided to go with the first one because I remember how shocked I was. I was as shocked at the moment where Craven shot Spider-Man as I was at the end of the miniseries when Craven shot himself. Spoiler. So I'm going to go with this as my number 4 pick of favorite comics from the 80s. And I don't think you can argue it, can you, James?
It's arguably, again, depending on who you ask, but it's arguably the greatest Spider-Man story ever done to some people. I mean, I certainly would definitely put it, for me, very least, this is top 3 greatest stories ever done in Spider-Man. So, I mean, how you can pick a cover from that and be wrong, I don't think that's possible.
Well, there you go. James agrees with me. That's my number 4. Let's see what James, oh boy, this is a good one. And I'm not going to say anything. We'll see. Look at this. Go ahead.
Okay. It's Batman Year One, 404 Part 1. And again, now you say this image, there's no Batman on it. There's no action. There's no like villains. There's nothing. But to me, this image right here, this single image by Mazzucchelli is a masterclass because it tells you everything. This is the core of the character. Everything he does in the story, and of course, forever after, it all comes back to this one moment. This is what makes Batman Batman. And Mazzucchelli just perfectly, he gets it in there. And I love this. Like, here, let me big it up here. And you can see like just the blood on the mother, the father's face down. It's like he's trying to hold her, she's trying to hold the son. Just it's just all emotion, raw emotion that just sort of like just puts everything in perspective of like, so when you see Batman doing what he does, you understand. And this is what makes it so great is just the symmetry of just the emotion of a child, that now has gone on to do more than just be merely sorrowful, and yet that this is the moment, this is the key to the entire character's history right here in one single image. And when I did my live stream for the celebrating Batman Day this year, which was the 85th anniversary of Batman, by the way. I did my top 30 favorite Batman covers of all time, like the 30, I think, it was the 30 best Batman covers. This was number 1. So, I mean, for the very reason I just stated, it's everything about the character distilled to a single image that just hits on an emotional resonance that I think very few ever hit.
I remember when this came out, and it was one of those things that was very exciting. The Mazzucchelli artwork was just wonderfully understated, I guess would be a way to describe his stuff. Very simple, very Toth-like, but so effective for this story. And it was a story that really sort of focused on James Gordon, right? If I'm remembering correctly.
Gordon was besides Batman, Gordon was the other in the story.
Yeah, so they were kind of paralleling their careers, beginning about at the same time, kind of thing. And this was really, really good. Again, it's when you get down and you're just picking 5 things from an entire decade, it gets really, really tough. But this is a classic for sure. Squeaky for $2, or pardon me, Geek Avenger for $2 says, Squeaky and I are fans of your art, you crank. Well, thank you for that. It's nice to know that I can be a cranky old man and still have some people that appreciate what I'm doing. I'm not sure exactly if they appreciate the cranky old man or the artwork, but I'll take either at this point. All right, so there's a couple of good choices, I think, by both of us. If I could pat myself on the back, and you as well, James. Oh, wait a minute, there it is over there. Whatever. So let's take a look at number 3. Let's go back to 1986, shall we? I think that's right. Pretty sure.
I'd love to go back to 1986.
Yeah, I had hair. I was young. I was in shape, healthy, all those good things. There we go. So again, you're really sort of picking the entire miniseries, but I can only pick one issue. And out of all the 3, although the part where the Joker breaks his own neck was pretty impactful, this issue where Superman and Batman face off, the big finale. And I want to point out that, in crowdfunding, a lot of times there's guys that are a little late, or maybe even, with my Kit Carter is fulfilling later than I, wanted it to because of the various printing problems and other things that hoops I was jumping through. This book was really late. But it was worth it. So, when it got to the 4th issue, I just remember this was months late, and everybody's like, what's going to happen? And then we get this great, Superman versus Batman fight. And I love at the end how, Superman, they're at the gravesite of Bruce Wayne / Batman, and he can hear the little heartbeat, and he knows that that Bruce Wayne is still alive, that Batman still lives. And he kind of has that little smile to his face as they walk away, and he kind of just lets it be, because he learned a valuable lesson, I think Superman did in this issue. But so if I had to pick any of the 4 of the Dark Knight Returns, this is probably my favorite. Maybe that's too easy because it's obviously the climax to the story and it has the big battle and all that kind of stuff, but it was the most fun. And I like the little kind of twist. I don't know if you call it twist ending, but the clever little ending in this as well. But I like all 4 of them. Just incredibly impactful miniseries. It sort of changed the course of comics in a lot of ways, and ushered in the gritty, dark deconstruction superhero fad that hasn't left us yet, unfortunately. But
well, in this one, Aaron, it seems the chat is somewhat against you on this. You got Leg Kick here saying, actually, I like the Wolverine miniseries better. You have Art of Gary going, Patooey, shaky, Miller's shaky hands art. And he goes, have I ever told you how much I dislike Miller's crap? Well, I do.
Well,
Paul Taylor, the art was definitely different.
Well, let me tell you, when I first saw this, I didn't buy it because of the artwork. I didn't get it. And I was like, what's going on here? And, but someone told me, which I don't know if it makes sense, but maybe it does now in sort of an abstract way. But this guy said, you've got to read the story to understand why the art is like it is, and I was like, what? And it does kind of fit. After you read it, you kind of get used to it, and it sort of fits. And so at first I was an art snob about this. I was like, this is crap. But after reading it, I just kind of went with it. I was never a guy that was into simplistic art. I always liked the highly detailed stuff. The older I got, the more I was able to appreciate different kinds of approaches. And I think if this was just the style he used in this book, if it was, Captain America story or something, you'd all be going, bleh. But it just seemed to fit what he was doing in this miniseries, like it or love it. So, and you can't argue the impact that this book had on the industry.
You can't argue the relevance of what
it so
achieved.
Whether you like it or not, you can't argue the relevance. It just happens to be one of those things that I couldn't separate the importance of this book from, usually I'll pick books that I just like because whatever, but this was so important, and I did like it, that I felt like it had to be on the list. So there you go. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. James, let's see what, ooh, that's a nice one. Let's hear your story on this.
Now, again, this is the conclusion to the Armor Wars saga in Iron Man, which is probably, again, just like we said with Kraven's Ice Hunt for Spider-Man, arguably the best Iron Man story ever done. But I mean, this one just took it up a notch. I mean, how can you not do so when you have Barry Windsor Smith inked by Bob Layton? And just this cover is like the epitome of what, like, I think great superhero comics should be, what their cover should be. The kind of image that you see it and you're just like, whoa, what is this? Like, even if you weren't reading Iron Man at the time, which, shame on you if you weren't, but even if you weren't and you saw this book on the stand, you just go like, I just got to grab a copy of this and read it. I got to see what this is about, because it's just that awesome of an image, and you see the detail. I mean, you just said about how Miller's work on The Dark Knight was very simplistic, and here is the exact opposite. The heavy amount of detail that Windsor Smith and Layton put in here is just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, with just that purple background to just push the character right in your face is it makes it such a standout, and it's just a beautiful image. And as far as the story, again, it's just a great story. It's a total dream. It's all a dream, but it's like, you get inside the mind of Tony Stark in a way reading this issue, and you come to understand the character in a way you may never have before. And again, so for just all of that, Iron Man 232, definitely gotta be one of the top 3 greatest covers of the 80s. I don't think you could ever, they've never touched upon this on Iron Man's book on any other cover they've done since this. Nothing has been anywhere near what this has done.
Barry Smith did, he was bouncing around a little bit. Now, of course, he did Weapon X, but he would do like this Iron Man issue, and then he did like a couple of X-Men issues, that had the really cool, that won the Wolverine
wait
cover.
a minute. People are saying there's no image.
I'm seeing it. Are you not seeing it?
I'm seeing it too.
Why aren't you guys seeing it? Let me try again here. Okay. Add the image. Boom. You guys not seeing that? Still not seeing that? Boomers of a feather stick together. How are you guys not seeing that? It's right there on the screen. Oh my gosh, what is going on here? What issue is that again?
232.
All right, hang on. Not sure exactly why that was not coming up, but let's try this.
Well, maybe if I stop sharing it and reshared it, maybe that would clear it up.
Well, there it is. So there we go.
There's the cover. That's the cover I was talking about, folks, right here. This is, again, although it's the color is a little different, it seems. They must have done something to it, but let me see.
Well, this is on that cover website, the database, and so it's always I don't understand why that wasn't showing up. But anyway, so my point being that there was a series of Barry Smith covers that he did in the 80s and in the interiors as well. They were kind of surprising. You go, just this rando issue of Iron Man or this random issue of X-Men, or I believe there was a Marvel team up he did, Marvel Team Up 100, if I'm not mistaken, with the X-Men. I know he did the cover. I think he did the guts of it too.
No, 100 was done by Miller. He did 150, the final issue.
Yeah, that's right. Right. And so it was just kind of interesting that, of course, the monumental Weapon X story arc in Marvel Comics Presents that he did. There we go. Let's see. Marcus Killicrew says, now I see it. Good cover. Barry Windsor Smith hated the inks.
Don't know why.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me.
I thought Layton did excellent on this. It's like I said, it just, the memory is burned into my brain. I will never forget this image ever.
Yeah, it's tremendous. And so again, I can't fault your taste here. Very good. All right. Well, now we're getting into the top 2. So now we'll see how angry the mob gets. Now this turned out to be a polarizing comic over the years, and all I can tell you is when I picked this up and read it, and maybe it was just because of the artwork, I was stunned. And that is the Killing Joke. This is, I believe, 1988, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yes.
I was a big fan of Boland's work on Camelot 3000, which was earlier in the 80s there, and written by Mike Barr, which was a really good miniseries. But the artwork in this was so stunning that I didn't care what the story was. Now, I know Graham Nolan he hates this comic because he doesn't feel that Batman acts like Batman in it. Now, I'm not a purist by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm someone who kind of lets creative people kind of do their own take on something without, losing my mind, unless it's a horrible take. But Graham especially doesn't like the ending of this, where Batman and the Joker share a joke, and the Joker makes the joke about the guy, because Batman offers his help. I'll help you in a really sincere moment, even after everything Joker has done. It's just the abomination, the horrible things that he's done in this comic, and Batman still extends a hand to help him, and he rejects it by telling him the joke about the two guys who escaped from the insane asylum, and the one guy jumps across the rooftop or something, and he says, he goes, I can't make it, it's too far. And the other guy says, well, I got this flashlight, I'll shine the beam across, and you can walk across the beam to get the other side. And the guy goes, are you crazy? I would never do that. He goes, I don't trust you. He said, you'll turn the beam off halfway across, or something like that, to make the joke. And they both start laughing, right? And Graham just thought that was really inappropriate. But for me, I see that ending as the Batman and Joker are like this really thin line from being the same character. One is on the good side, one is on the bad side, but they're both kind of crazy, and either one, you know what I mean? And so I kind of felt like they're, in a really bizarre way, sort of kindred spirits. And that's why they continue to, not kill each other, but continue to battle each other, almost like for eternity. And so I didn't mind that ending, despite the fact of the horrific things that the Joker did. I just felt like the separation between these guys was so narrow that they were almost on the same page. And at least that's what I took. Like I said.
Well, I agree with you. Batman and the Joker, they're sort of like, they are the avatars, one of order and the other of chaos. And you can't have one with the other. They're the yin and the yang. That's how they work. And so, yeah, I agree. And I think that was spotlighted very well. I think maybe just the sharing of a joke after all he had done wasn't maybe the best way to show that. I mean, I see what it was, and I see how, and I definitely agree that that's what he was doing with it. But I think maybe that wasn't the best way to show it. That's why people have such a visceral reaction to it. But yeah, I do think this was definitely a great showcase for the Joker, more so even than Batman. And again, Bolland's work is like, there's the Joker before Bolland, and then there's the Joker after Bolland. And that's this is kind of the watershed moment of like where the Joker goes from being like the clown prince of crime to like a serious psychotic threat.
Yes.
From this point forward. And so.
Absolutely. I agree with it. And it changed my perspective, because I used to think the Joker was just stupid. And this turned him into something that was really terrifying. And I thought, now you've got a supervillain here that is worthy of fear. And so that's, and the other thing too, that I just thought, and I can't stand Alan Moore personally. I mean, I don't know him, but what he writes and what he projects as his opinions and things like that. But he wrote some pretty complex stories for comic books, which I always appreciated. And if you remember, the start of this story has all these rain puddles, right? And then it goes into the story, and then it ends on the rain puddles. And it was like, what does that mean? And to me, it was always, nothing ever changes between these two. It's like, And I don't know, other people may have taken something different from that, but I always kind of looked at it like the song remains the same, right? To quote Led Zeppelin, but it's the rain at the beginning, the rain in puddles at the end. This
Oh,
never changes between these two.
Antonia Dennison says the Joker telling jokes is inappropriate. No, that's not inappropriate for him, but for Batman to share the laugh with him
Right.
would seem inappropriate. You know, because imagine Jay Leno coming and murdering people and harming people close to you, and then you stopped him, and then he made a joke and you started laughing with him about it. That would seem inappropriate. Not inappropriate for Jay Leno to tell jokes because he's a comedian, but yeah, you sharing the laugh after what he had done to people close to you, yeah, it would be a little. It would feel a little out of character for you to laugh at that joke, and even if it was funny, you still just no. But I think the visceral reaction people have. They're like, Batman would never laugh at the Joker's joke, having seen what he had just done.
Right, and that was Graham's biggest problem. But like I said, I kind of felt like that was just kind of a way of showing us these guys are not that far apart, and I remember another artist friend of mine criticized this book, which I never really understood. I won't say who it was, but his feeling was that Boland and Alan Moore were just showing off, because every transition, if you remember, it was like a film transition where it would visually, it would be like, I remember there's one particular scene where the doctor is moving Barbara Gordon's legs to see if she feels anything. And then we cut to a flashback of the Joker tearing open the legs off of a like a crawdad or a lobster or something, but there was always those transitions between every scene, visual transitions. And this artist friend of mine was like, oh, that's just so obvious. They're just showing off. And I'm like, what do you mean it's showing off? It's brilliant. It's like taking the comic book one step further and putting more thought into it. Why is that something you'd criticize? But anyway, so there you go. Like I said, it's a polarizing book, but one of the ones that really deeply affected me in the 80s and certainly changed my perspective on the Joker for sure. All righty. So let's see. Can you guys see this?
You guys see the current one now?
I hate the stinking delay because we have to sit there and wait. But are you guys seeing this image?
All right.
Yes. Okay. Good.
Yes.
All right. We're good.
Here. My number 2 again. Now we already saw this with Aaron and his number 4, but me, I specifically picked this cover out of all.
Incredible.
And he said, all the covers of this saga are great, but to me, this is the one that again, it's just like with the Joker, we just said, a very visceral feeling looking at this cover. You got the pouring rain, you got the tombstones in the background, and you got Spider-Man literally coming up out of the earth, from where he's been buried. I mean, like again, this to me is like the quintessential image for the entire saga. He was one way when he went in the ground, and now he's coming out, and nothing's going to be the same ever again. And, again, resurrection right there on the guy. And even though it's part 4, again, just like with the Iron Man cover, even if you're not reading Spider-Man books at this time and you just saw this cover on the newsstand looking back, you're like, oh, I got to pick this up and read it. I got to find out what happens in here. Spider-Man coming up out of the ground, out from his grave. Oh, my God, what is this? Again, it was a story of honor and death and one-upsmanship and, glory and, just all this great stuff. And it's like I said, this is why it is arguably one of the greatest Spider-Man stories ever done, if not the greatest. And for me, this image typifies the heart of what the whole saga is. So out of any of the covers, great as they all are, this one is just that one little step above all the rest of them. And the fact that it's Web of Spider-Man, which was like the lesser of the Spider-Man books, Amazing and Spectacular were way more popular, sold way more copies than Web of did, and yet Web of gets the honor of what I consider the best cover of the saga, was just amazing. So
and the first part, and they started it in Web probably to make sure people bought it. Probably true. I remember seeing this cover. Now I'd already started. I bought from the first issue just because it looked interesting. But if you had not picked up the previous issues and you saw this cover, it would make you go pick up the previous issues.
Yes.
This is not only is it the best cover of the series, it's one of the great Spider-Man covers of all time, at least in my opinion. Just really dramatic, just incredibly dramatic. And Zach, for me, was the cover artist of the 80s, just as I would say Gil Kane was probably the cover artist of the 70s. You could argue that Neil Adams was right there with him, but I always thought Zach was his covers were so fantastic. Loved him.
I mean,
So he dominated.
could you imagine owning the original art to this?
Oh, I can imagine a lot of things, James, that'll never come true for me. And the thing is, if you had purchased this, in when did this come out? 87?
87.
If you'd purchased this from him in 87 or 88, it probably was affordable. Probably could have got it for a couple grand, which was not affordable to me back then. But, considering what it's probably like $100,000 cover now. So,
probably I'd say easily $250,000.
Maybe
$250,000
could be
to get
right.
that cover.
Could be right. It's crazy how this original art is blown up. And you're just like, man, if only I had money. I had the will in the 80s, but not the cash. So.
And today, you still have the will and not the cash.
I know nothing has changed. Absolutely nothing has changed. So anyway, we crossed paths there at number 2. But here we go. Here's the big one. Number 1 for the 1980s. I already see your cover. It just reminds me of how many great comics were in the 80s. Here we go. Yeah, baby. This
I had a feeling, Aaron, since I hadn't seen anything of Walt's yet in your run, I figured he's got to have Walt Simonson in here somewhere. And when we got, I think, all right, there it is.
Yep. Well, the thing with this is, I quit buying comics around 1980, 79, 80, because, and I've told this many times, I had got my car. I was more interested in girls and all that kind of, in spending my money on gas to drive my car around than I was in comics. So I'd sort of outgrown them at this point. But then this came out, in which I believe was 83. And I was like, so I graduated my first year of college. I had graduated high school. It was my first year of college. I remember hearing about this through the grapevine, because I would still go into comic shops every once in a while, kind of see what was what. And it wasn't until the mid 80s, like 86, 87, that I really, later mid 80s, that I got back into comics. But this grabbed my attention. I didn't really know who Simonson was at that period of time. I mean, I'd seen the Alien graphic novel from 1979, I believe that came out. Yeah, it came out actually before the movie did. And I remember seeing that in the bookstore and reading it and all that kind of stuff. And so I knew the name, but I wasn't all that familiar with his work on a broader scale. And this was just a very stylized, interesting looking way that Walter drew. And I was always a collector from the financial standpoint. Even as a kid, I was always mindful of how much my comics were worth, or how much I thought they were worth. And so this, people buzzing about this made me think, well, maybe I should pick this issue up just in case. Well, I went to a con, and it was or a comic book show in Portland, couldn't have been more than a few weeks after this had come out. And this was 60 cents. They already had it at $6. And I was like, I'm not paying $6 for that.
And now today you go out, buy one, and you spend $50.
I know.
So congratulations.
That's like a new comic now is $6, right? So I was like, I'm not paying $6 for that. I was just outraged. It's only 2 weeks old. I thought, why I should be able to get this for, $1 at most, but no, it was $6. So I refused to get it. And then eventually I got it later.
For a lot more money.
Yeah, for even more, probably $20 or whatever I paid for it. I don't know later. But the thing that grabs me about this is two things, right? I don't think up until this point we'd ever seen another being worthy enough to hold Thor's hammer, right? So that was kind of the shocker. And then it's this weird looking alien, which is kind of cool. And then it's like he steals Don Blake's hammer and becomes the new Thor. And Don Blake, that last image of him, Father, yelling up into the, the Asgard as the rain is pelting him, he's standing on the wreckage of the spaceship. And it's just like such a killer ending. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to read the next issue.
It was almost like a biblical ending, like of
Yeah.
Jesus screaming, Father, why have you forsaken me?
Yeah. And I'm sure that's, kind of what he was going for there. And it was just, I was just like blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen in the next issue? So this, for me, is probably the most impactful and memorable comic from the 1980s for me. And certainly one of legendary status that I'm always jealous, because it seems like most artists, not most artists, but a lot of artists, at least the great ones, the ones that are recognized as great, always have like a signature moment in comics, right? And this was Walter's. Just like, I guess you could argue whether for Frank Miller it was Daredevil or perhaps Dark Knight Returns, and Zek, was it, Captain America or the Punisher, something like that. All these guys have like memorable things that everybody goes, oh yeah, that Punisher miniseries that Zek did was unbelievable. And it pisses me off because I never had one of these. Maybe I'm having one right now, and with Wraith of God, I don't know. But this was the moment that I think Walter Simonson turned from being just a good pro to a superstar, was with this issue. And
I definitely cannot fault that logic.
So anyway, there you go, Walter, if you're out there. He drops by every once in a while, but big fan of that stuff. Big fan of Walter the person too. He's a great guy, and so is Wheezy. He's a great person. So, all right, so let's take a look at your number one. There it is. Assuming everybody can see this.
Yeah, this should not be a surprise to anyone, provided you can see it. You should not be surprised at this image. So, folks, let me know if you see it for sure, because I don't want us to go into this until I know you can see it.
Yeah, let us know if you see this. Okay. While we're doing that, Citizen Ronan says, Aaron.
Okay, there we go. There you go, Aaron.
Hang on a second. Aaron, you always have Atari Force. Well, Citizen Ronan, you can always have the. So there you go. All right. They can see it.
They see it. Yeah. So there it is. I mean, it's McFarlane. It's Wolverine versus the Hulk. I mean, this cover is just like, just like you said about for Walt, that Thor 337 is like the signature moment that he became a superstar. This to me is the image that launched McFarlane as the Todd father, that the man of the time that everyone loved his work. This is the one that did it here. This great cover image. I mean, how many times has it been homaged and swiped and, changing out the characters? Let's put in X-23 with this character on the claws. I mean, so many times this cover has been used and reused again and again and again. It's burned into the zeitgeist of comics. And to me, this is where Todd McFarlane, like I said, took that step up, where he's like not just a cool comic artist, he's now a superstar. This is why he was able to do what he did, launching Image and everything else he's done. This was the book. Even more, they say Venom, yeah, he's a great character, and Todd definitely gave him a great look. But this was the issue that launched him right here. This was the one that people just like, whoa. And the funny part is, this is the issue that when this issue came out, it was in October of 87. It's dated February of 88, but it came out October of 87, right around the time I first got seriously into comics. So a very important connection to me this cover has, because this is when I first got into it, and this is what was being produced at the time, that the man himself was becoming a superstar at the same exact moment. And so, like, to me, this is the ultimate cover of the 80s. The excess of the 80s, the power of the 80s, the fun of the 80s, all of it is in this one single image by McFarlane. And again, it launched him to superstardom.
Yeah, this is interesting because he had a run. Well, I forget about this, but he had a run on the Hulk before he went to Spider-Man, right? So this is just prior to him going to Spider-Man.
Yes. In fact, I'm trying to remember here. This issue came out I think, I'm trying to remember here, this came out the month right before his first Amazing Spider-Man issue. And he wasn't even done on the Hulk yet. There were still several issues of Hulk left before before he that he was doing Spider-Man. So he was doing Spider-Man and Hulk at the same time for like 4 or 5 months. There were 4 or 5 months where it just him on both books, which I can't even imagine. I can imagine how he did that, to do two books with his style.
I wonder if they were that far ahead, but I can't believe they were.
Well, I know he had help with inkers and things like that, but still, even with other inkers, it's just, his style is so heavily detailed. And it's just like, how was he able to crank out 2 big books with 2 of Marvel's premier characters at the same time? And again, like I said, and this is the one that started it all right here. I mean, just it blows me away. Like I said, it's a cultural touchstone of 80s comics right here.
Mm-hmm.
If someone says, what are 80s comics all about? Just give them a copy of Hulk 340. Here you go. This is the 80s right here in a single issue.
Oh, Leg Kick says I could have gotten the pages for that book for $150 a piece. Oh, doesn't it make you cry now? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This reminds me when I first saw McFarlane's stuff, it was on was it Invaders or some DC? What was that DC? Invasion. Yeah. And that then, and I remember when I saw that in the comic shop, because I wasn't sure I liked it, but I knew it was different and unique, his style. So it interested me, even though I wasn't even sure if I liked it, but it did interest me because it was so different and unique. But at the same time, that Batman, Alan Davis Batman, was it Full Circle? No, what was it called with that, the guy with the scythe? There was like a 4-issue death, not death.
Batman Year 2, and that was the
yes.
The Reaper, I think.
Yes, that's right. And I remember that came out the same time that Invaders thing, because I remember having them both in my hand in the comic shop going, I got to get this Alan Davis thing. And I kept looking at that Invasion going,
well, Invasion came out
pick this up.
After Year 2.
And then, of course, he went over to Hulk after that.
Year 2 actually came out well before Invasion. Invasion was 89, and I think Year 2 was in 87.
Really? It must have been the same. It must have been the same comic shop, or maybe it could have just been sitting there in back issues too.
There you go. That's probably what it was.
I might have. Yeah, the Invasion may have been there, and the Batman thing with Alan Davis might have been a back issue, and I wasn't aware of it, and I found it. I was like, oh, this is cool. So, but anyway, some of the books we didn't mention, like one of my favorites was Spider-Man 238, which was the first Hobgoblin. I'm pretty sure the Punisher miniseries that Stephen Grant and Mike Zeck did, that was late 80s, wasn't it? Or was it early 90s? It was late 80s.
That was like 86.
Yeah. So it was amazing to me to find how many really substantial books came out in the 80s. It's a decade for me that even though I was a reader in the 70s, that's when I was growing up, and you have that sort of, I'm a child and childlike excitement about comics. I wasn't a young adult in the 80s when I got back into it. I was 21, 22 when I got back into comics down there in LA. And maybe it was because I was, you're right at that verge where you're trying to transition from adolescence into a career and being a real adult and all those. And so your whole life is ahead of you, and you have these dreams and aspirations of either being a comic book artist or a filmmaker, which was my situation. And so this stuff was all like, I just remember it being a really, really exciting time in comics. I was drawn to the comic shop because every week something cool was coming. And, the death of Captain Marvel, the first, was that 79 or 80? Or was that in the 80s? I can't remember. I thought it was the 80s. The first death of Captain Marvel. Well, the first time I saw it was in the 80s.
I believe I think that was 81 or 82. The graphic novel came out. Yeah, that was very early 80s, but yeah.
And then you had, of course, the independent colors, like we talked about, color comics like you know, the Rocketeer and all those other things that were going on with Pacific and Eclipse. And it was just a really exciting decade of comic books, and really sort of the fertile imaginations of the creative people that were working in comics at that time.
If we're talking about, you know, covers like one that just missed our top 5, for me, like a number 6 would have been an independent book. I was going to pick Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1.
Oh,
because
that's
again, the cultural impact of that image, of that issue, and what they've become since then is just undeniable. I mean, so, you know, and I agree with you. I've heard Graham Nolan talk about this. He said that, you know, like, to him, he goes, you got the golden age, which is the beginnings of comics.
Right.
Then you have the silver age, which is sort of like a renaissance from the golden age. He goes, and then the 80's came along, and that was sort of like a renaissance of the renaissance, where you had the explosion of independent guys that came about in the 80's. And he goes, so it was like sort of like a reinvigoration that came along in the 80's that just pushed it throughout the whole decade.
Yep. Really, really true. I thought the 70's was kind of you had the illustrators coming into comics, you know, guys that were putting more work than, you know, Kirby and Gene Colan and those guys, John Buscema did in their, you know, in their standard Marvel style, John Romita. You had these guys that were more interested in being comic book illustrators than comic book artists. And, you know, Wrightson's, Barry Smiths, even guys like Jim Starlin that were bringing in his superheroes, Mike Plug, you know, Kaluta. You know, you just go down the line of Val Mayrick, guys that were trying to be more illustrative, Frank Bruner, all came in the 70's, which was my era. And it was more of a fantasy type. Horror and fantasy were really big, at least the first half of the 70's. And so that was a big influence, obviously, on me. But 80's was like back to the silver age, right? It was back to comics again, superhero comics mostly, but just innovative and great artists and really good writers coming in and doing things that were just really revitalized the industry, because it was dying at the end of the 70's. Then the comic shops came around, and then they just got all this great 80's stuff. And I noticed we didn't, either of us had a Arthur Adams book in here, which I guess Longshot would be kind of in there as well for me, somewhere in the top 10 probably of 80's books. Because you, like everybody, the first time you saw Arthur Adams' work, you're like, whoa, this is cool, you know, and then it just kept getting cooler as it went along, you know. But anyway, there you go, guys. That's a pretty good top 5 list from both of us. Memories.
Yeah, I didn't see a whole lot of people arguing with our picks as being horrible choices to represent the decade.
That's right. It's a lot. It was a lot of good stuff in the 80's for sure. Art of Roy, perhaps the most critical person that I'm aware of in social media and chat in these circles. Jeff Purvis, he's referring to as the Hulk artist. Wasn't a big fan of that. I wasn't either, actually, but I would never call someone out like that, Roy. But I guess I did
enjoyed it because it was so much the opposite of what McFarlane had been doing with the Gray Hulk, like with his style and his renderings. Mm-hmm. And it was like very much in an opposite direction. And I liked the change, especially since, of course, they changed it. Now he's a leg breaker in Las Vegas. I mean, it's a whole completely different story going on now. So it's like you're bringing a whole new artist to do that. I liked it. The early issues I thought inked by Terry Austin were better than the later stuff inked by Marie Severin. I mean, you know, she's a great artist, but I just think their styles didn't quite gel as well as he did with Terry Austin.
Well, I never, Purvis, it just never did it for me. But then, of course, along came a guy Dale came after Purvis, didn't he? Or was he before?
Yes.
No, he was after. Huh?
Yes, just as Purvis leaves, he comes on and becomes the artist. Yes.
Yeah, and that changed my life. Dale. Dale's a guy I love and hate at the same time. You know, you love him because he's a great artist, and you hate him because he's better than you are. And that's just the way it goes, I guess, sometimes.
But the question everyone has now, Aaron, is there anything in your flat files?
We're not doing flat files today, because I knew this would take twice as long as it normally does, because we were going to go back and forth on this.
Well, since you're not having flat files, let me do my flat files.
Oh,
And a little
gosh.
piece I just recently got not too long ago. I just posted it up, and I think you're going to enjoy this very much. So
All
go ahead
right.
and share the
Let's see
screen.
it. Let's see it.
This
That's
is from
Kelly Jones.
Batman Bloodstorm by Kelly Jones and John Beatty, and just like right here, this right here, this right here, this top panel right here,
Mm-hmm.
the face of the werewolf. That is the stuff of nightmares right here. And this is why I want you to get Kelly Jones and Dale Keown on a Graybeards episode with you, and then have all of you draw a werewolf.
Oh gosh, I'd be screwed for sure. I've tried to get Kelly on. Dale's come on, but he wouldn't draw. But he keeps thinking maybe he will at some point. So we'll see. But and Kelly, I talked to Kelly about coming on. He was like, "Yeah, just wait till convention season's over." And this was last year. And so then I sent him a message again, and I never heard back. But I'll reach out to him again. I should. Kelly was interesting. I always liked, because when Kelly inked himself, it was very more sort of, Wrightson-y. And then when John Beatty inks him, it's more like Michael Golden. And and I always thought that the contrast was so great between the two styles. And I actually asked Beatty about it one time, and he said, no, he said Kelly Jones loved it when he inked him because it was so different from what he did when he inked himself. And I like that, because I'm the same way. I mean, if an inker is good, even if it changes what my normal style might look like, as long as the finished product looks good, I don't care. And so I appreciate that Kelly's like sort of open enough to go, you know what, slick it up, and of course that's what Beatty does. He's super, super slick, or can be. And
well, and again, just those blacks are just like super black.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like just like opaque. There is no light getting through those.
Henry Jeremek, you're right. There's Wrightson, and he has this incredible mix of Wrightson and Golden, and of course his own style, obviously. I mean, a lot of artists get mad when you say, oh yeah, your stuff looks like Buscema, or your stuff looks like blah, 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 because it really looks like our stuff, but we all have influences. And I've never been I never took insult to that, because I recognize who my influences are. And it's interesting to me how certain traits pop up in my work, depending on what I'm drawing. You can say, oh, I can see some Neil Adams in there, or I can see Wrightson in there, or whatever. And I think, I don't know if Kelly's sensitive. He doesn't seem like he'd be the kind of guy that'd be sensitive about that kind of thing. But
man,
yeah,
Art of Roy is like trying to like be the new Neil Adams for artwork. I mean, good Lord.
Who's he ripping on now?
He's ripping on Kelly Jones.
Right
here he goes, how is that werewolf muzzle going one way, but the head is straight? I mean, good Lord, he's going after everything. He's attacked McFarlane, he attacked Ballin, he's attacked Jones, he's attacked Curves. Good Lord.
I'm telling you.
Is there anybody you do like, Roy? Good God, besides yourself, that is. I mean, is there anybody you like?
He says, if I see it, I must say it. There you go. Well, it depends. Sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes maybe it doesn't work out so well. But anyway, there you go. Okay.
I'm just saying is, he's obviously channeling the spirit of Neil Adams. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, Neil would let you know, that's for sure. Speaking of a guy that, let's see what Art of Roy says about this. But I'll preface by saying that he is a friend of mine, so you better be nice. Today we want to take a look at Gary Gianni's work. So let's run the program. Now, if you don't like turn of the century illustrators, and I mean like from the early 1900s, 1800s to 1900s, that turn of the century, then you're not going to like Gary Gianni's stuff, because that's sort of, he has this modern sort of take on that sort of, Franklin Booth and Clement Cole and guys like that with his pen and ink. He's an accomplished oil painter as well. Out of Chicago, here's what the man looks like. He's a super nice guy. Known him for years. Never been to his house, so I can't say we're like, best buddies or anything, but I do know him, and he's a good dude. We looked at the Tash and Frazetta book together in another dude's hotel room at a comic convention once, and we were just like, all right, we didn't want to spend $200 to get this book, but now I got to get it. And I also got to look at some of his other books that he had done illustrations for. So there's Gary. Let's take a look. Let's go back to, I want to say probably, what was this? The early 2000s, maybe. This publisher who was it? I can't remember. They did this, series of books where they were basically reprinting Robert E. Howard, the works of Robert E. Howard, right? So it was a Solomon Kane, there was a Conan. Mark Schultz did the Conan book, and Giani did the Solomon Kane. I think he did Brand McMorn, but it was a combination of oil paintings, which you see this cover is, and pen and ink illustrations. They both did that on the interiors, right? So you had these color plates and then the black and white illustration. So it was like an old time book that you would get that had, like Frazetta did the John Carter of Mars illustrated books in the 70s for Doubleday. That's what these guys did in these books. They were super freaking expensive. A low print run, collectible, hundreds of dollars for these things. And so I never got one. And now they're even more expensive. But the artwork in it is pretty fantastic. But you can see kind of like Howard Pyle influence and other classic illustrators here on this cover. Here's a Kane painting from the inside of the book. I believe this was like a color plate from the interior. There it is. Again, very sort of classical, sort of loose,
Yes.
Howard Pyle type, feel to it.
I like the way he does the backgrounds in that style because it makes them look like they're slightly out of focus to bring more attention to your characters in the foreground.
Yep. Yeah, this is it's just that's why I say if you don't like classic illustration, then this is not the guy for you. He has done some comic work, which we will take a look at. But look at some of the pen and ink stuff he does, and some people would say, "Oh, that kind of looks like Roy Crinkle." Yeah, it does, but where was Crinkle getting it from? He was getting it from Clement Cole and others of that period of time. But so yeah, so this is like, you open up the book and this is kind of the title page, that nice spot illustration here with again this old sort. Oh, there's a naked girl once again. Seems to be the theme today.
I told you. Yeah, it's all just coincidence, Aaron. It's all just coincidence. Sure.
Yep. Yeah. Well, you can think of guys like Gibson, Franklin Booth, Joseph Clement Cole, all that sort of kind of feel to these, to the work that Gary does. And let's take a look at this. I don't know what this might be. He also, for years, Mark Schultz wrote the Prince Valiant newspaper strip, and Gary drew it. I don't know if this is a panel from Prince Valiant or something else. But again, you can kind of look at that and see that sort of classic illustration style that he's using here.
It's the pen strokes, like especially like right on the horse and on the trees, the way those pen strokes are done.
Yes.
To get the shadings. Yeah, yep. That's how you can always tell illustration is like right in there.
Yep. And very loose, but yet the drawing very, very good. Very solid. So, and you got this is kind of a creepy image. These people hanging from this apple tree. I don't know. Is that a young Prince Valiant? I don't know. Boy, that's a rough, it's like, don't hit your head on the feet of the dead guys.
Don't turn around. Don't turn around.
Exactly. But I love this. I'm not sure if he did that on colored paper or if that looks like he probably watercolor, but it could be on, it looks like it's on colored paper, but he still watercolored the background to get, that's really cool. Here's Brand McMorn painting he did Now look at the vibrancy of the color on this.
Wow. Yeah.
It's just really, I mean, it just jumps. And how he brings this this blue into the shadow up here on his face. And it's just really, again,
Well,
a very sort of
this goes
classical
back to
style.
something I learned from Dan Lawless about colors and contrasting. As you know, if you have hot colors in front, you want cool colors in the back, and vice versa. If you got cool
Mm-hmm.
colors in front, you want hot colors in the back.
Mm-hmm. So you get that separation, and that's
It sort of pushes the image forward. Yeah.
right. So you got all these greens and blues in here, and then this, hot background here.
Reds and orange and yellow. Yeah.
Mm, very nice. But you pick up some of it in the flesh tone here and in some of the other areas. But yeah, it works really, really well. And just look at the detail on the sword. What do they call that? A scabbard? Did you put your sword in, I guess? And the
The
belt
hilt.
here.
The hilt.
These are, I mean, again, it's very loose, but at the same time, very detailed. It's a very strange thing. When you
Well,
do,
I think here the looseness really works to its benefit, like especially on his clothing, because it looks like worn, like he's been through battle, and
yeah,
it looks like it because it's so loose. It's not real super tight and super cut. The way it would be as if like it was brand new. This looks like it's been well worn through a
yep.
battle, and so I think that really works to his benefit to have that looser style to create an image like that.
Yeah, anytime you're doing barbarian work or fantasy work, a looser style always seems to work better than a super slick. And that's what ticks me off is I want to get looser with, especially, I mean, I've done it a little bit with Wraith of God, but if I was doing a Conan story or something, I'd want to get looser with it. The question is, could I let myself do it? Check this one out. I'm not sure. This may be from a Hellboy story he did for Dark Horse, but look at that. It's like who's the dude from Pirates of the Caribbean?
This
Davy
image,
Jones.
his style in this, it reminds me of like Paul Guinan and his
That's
style.
interesting. Yeah, I can see that.
I see like I'm sure it's probably the other way around. He's taking more from Gianni than the other way around. But I mean, I see the similarities in their styles here.
Well,
It's like he's
they could have the same influences too. You
that's
draw
true.
from the same influences, and then you're going to get their interpretation of those influences. Because again, you would look at this and think, this could be an illustration from 1915. And
Yeah.
I just think it's really cool. This octopus head dude, and then you got another octopus here with a pirate hat. And look at these octopus guys, man. It's great.
And
So
maybe
I
this is
don't.
where Disney got one of their ideas for one of those Pirates of the Caribbean films.
That's true. I don't know if this predated that or not. Maybe Gary got ripped off. I don't know.
I'm sure it'll be the first time Disney ripped somebody off.
Yeah. Here is this is from the Hellboy comic. I got a couple pages from the Hellboy comic he worked on. And again, it's kind of written to his. See, here's Hellboy down here in the last panel. But these seafaring gentlemen, man, it's a crazy amount of work.
That top panel is just, this is like Gary Martin level insane.
You got a Kraken down here coming up. Get this guy. But again, you would think that this was, 1915 book illustration or something. I mean, that's just what he does. And I love the fact that in this modern era, he just sort of embraces that style. And it's new to a lot of people because obviously no one was around in 1915. They can go, yeah, I remember. But look at this. You got your pencils and your inks. This guy's face and how he inked it up here. Who's the guy who did Little Nemo in Slumberland? I can't remember. Some of that line work, looks like that as well. It's just all that turn of the century illustrators influence, and because they were all sort of worked in similar pen and ink styles. So there's probably a lot of those guys influenced.
Well, interesting to me is
Winsor
how
McKay, thank you. Randy Howell, Winsor McKay did Little Nemo and Slumberland. Go ahead,
I'm
James.
interested. I'm interested in how he changed up from the pencils to the inks, where he lightened up some stuff. Actually, like if you look at the Hellboy in the top panel, he's very much covered in shadow, and then when you get over to the inked image, you see a lot more of him and a lot less shadow. Same on that
Yeah.
guy in the foreground here. You see he's got his back to us. The guy on the bottom right hand corner, very heavily shadowed, and yet here he's not so shadowed, and he even gave him like a long ponytail on top of it. So I'm finding it interesting how he changed certain things from pencils over to the inks. That's interesting. I usually think it would be the other way around, where like you'd have it looser in pencils, where it's not so dark and like so many shadows, and then you would darken it up when you go to ink. And yet he did the exact opposite of that. He's got like much more shadows in here, and then when he gets to his ink, he's like, yeah, I'm not going to shade that one in. I'm not going to shade that in, and it just lightens it up. And it's like, that's amazing. I've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. Very cool stuff. And you can see like this, how rough this face is right here, but then becomes a very detailed face right here. So, and even the position and stuff. So it makes me think that he probably, because look at Hellboy's face is different. So I'm wondering if these are small layouts, or if he light tabled this and then went over the top of it with the ink and then made the changes he wanted to in the inking. Because you can see a lot of different changes in the faces from what's in the pencils to what ended up in the inks. So if he light tabled this, he had to have inked, with the intent of drawing while he was inking, because he changed so much stuff.
Yeah.
Very
That's what I'm thinking. I just never seen it. But usually, it's like I said, it's usually the other way around, where like they'll keep stuff lighter in the pencils, and then go, if I want to darken it up, I'll do that in the inks. Is how most guys, I think, would approach it. And yet he seems to be approaching it from the opposite direction. He went heavier in pencil, and then when he got to the inks, he's like, I'm going to lighten these areas up.
Yeah, well, it's funny because he indicated obviously where he wanted all the shadows and the dark areas, but then he would go in and, like you said, on this guy's shirt right here, he made it lined, so it's still shadowed, but it's not as dark. So you get some separation between. So you didn't have this one big, just giant dark mass, right? He broke it up a little bit.
Or even more so is if you look here, see where the captain is at, and then you got the guy right in front of him with the bald head, and then the guy right behind him in the hat. If you look in the pencils, he's all shadowed in, and yet here there's no shadow on him at all.
Well, I think it's just kind of like when you're inking something like that and you're doing a lot of your work in the inking, Wrightson used to do that as well. And it's like, you make different decisions. You go, you know what? I like this better like this. Or because you can go in and do line work on this guy's shirt, and then if you don't like it, you can always black it in. You know what I mean? So he probably went in and built stuff up with his line work to get to us, till it was where he wanted, where he was comfortable with it. But yeah, it's very, very interesting. Let's see what else we got here from him. He also did some work in the shadow. I don't know what this is from, though. I don't know if this is book illustration or if this is a splash page from a comic that maybe he did for Dark Horse or something. I'm not sure.
Wow.
But again,
that staircase in Bannister is just incredible.
Yeah, they're all just shot up, like there's been a machine gun fight or something going on there. But again, that's very much Clement Cole, Franklin Booth-ish kind of line work that we just don't see. We haven't seen, other than Wrightson's Frankenstein, we haven't seen, people use for 100 years. There's another, I don't know what this is from, but man, I'd like to get this. I guess I could just use the old internet and it'd probably give me many, many secrets that I don't know the answer to right now. This is another shadow illustration. I love these little guys down. I mean, I love the big shadow here, but it's a shadow looking at a comic book page, right? And then these guys fighting down here.
He's looking at a comic page of himself.
Yeah, it's just really wild. I don't know what this is from, but I'm going to find out because I want to get this. If this is a comic book story, of the Shadow by Gary Gianni. I want to get it. He recently did, when I said recently, a couple of years, he did a Sherlock Holmes illustrated book for a European publisher. He showed it to me, and it was so freaking expensive. It was like $250 for it. But they hand bound it. The whole thing, they did it to make it look like an old book. Yeah. That was really cool, but super expensive because of how they did it. You know, it was,
well, as you know, Aaron, everything in Joe Biden's America is expensive.
Well, this was prior to Joe Biden's America, but it was. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was early on in Joe Biden's America, so things were just starting to really get bad. Here's another Shadow piece. This is really intriguing me. I'm going to have to go back and dig this stuff up. But I was like, look at his hand, look at the inking on his hand and his fingers here, that line work.
Yeah, so like I said, that line work, that tells you this is not like your typical comic artist. This is an illustrator. That's what that says to me. Yep. Every time I've seen artists who have that kind of like almost like a brushwork style in like the shadowing that way, it always makes me, oh, this guy's an illustrator.
Absolutely. And I think that's he doesn't do a ton of comic work. Most of his stuff is like illustrated books and things, which of course is a very, very, very niche market. But Marcus Killer, that's what I thought. Marcus is saying it's Dark Horse, Aaron. Okay. I will dig it up. I'll find it. Because I know he's done some, like I said, he did some Hellboy stuff for Dark Horse. Apparently did the Shadow for Dark Horse. I wanted to show a couple of his Prince Valiant pages from the newspaper strip as well. Look at that. Just the scope of that. Look at that bridge. And again, that inking is really, really loose on there, but it just creates a really nice texture. Just the detail. Really, really nice work. Can you imagine?
You know, as if modern comic artists didn't have enough trouble just competing with, you know, the guys from like 30 years ago. Now they got this.
I know. Well, it was remarkable to me that the amount of work. Now, granted, back in the day, in the golden age, right, that this is what every illustrator wanted, was a newspaper strip because they paid so well. But if you think about Hal Foster, the amount of work Hal Foster did on those Prince Valiant strips, and even this, I mean, I have no idea what Gary was getting for this. But I do know that newspaper strips were nowhere near as lucrative when he was doing this as they were back, you know, when Hal Foster was working on Prince Valiant. But just the incredible amount of work here is it's amazing. And to have that really kind of groovy, old-fashioned style like that, I don't mean that to be insulting, because I'm a huge fan of classic illustration and those different styles. But there you go, folks. I won't say good friend, but I'll say my friend Gary Gianni. Some really nice work there. So if you guys haven't checked out his stuff, you should. Unfortunately, most of his book illustration stuff is super expensive, but he has a ton of books on his work that I shouldn't say a ton, but several that Flesk has put out. So you can check him out there. And also, as Marcus Killigrew pointed out, the Hellboy and the Shadow is Dark Horse Comics. So it shouldn't be too hard to locate those, as I'm going to go find them myself. All right. Well,
more money you don't have.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they can't be that. They're fairly modern, right? They can't be that expensive. Okay. So before we jump into what we're all waiting for,
I think Creative Faye might be onto something here.
Another Gary that inks insanely. Maybe it's a Gary thing. Oh, that's a nice observation. Maybe it is a Gary thing. But I want to show you an Aaron thing, if I can, here real quick. This is called Wraith of God, Fear Hollow. This is the third Wraith of God graphic novel. And in this one, we get the Wraith and Esther head up to the northeast to a small village called Cranestown, where the Wraith 20 years earlier experienced a frightful encounter with the Headless Horseman. And now he goes back to revisit that. The Horseman's there. The witch that controls the Horseman is still there. And even a new foe from his past is there. This has got some little tidbits of origin story in there. And I'm telling you, this one's scary. I was scaring myself, James. I was up late at night writing this, and I had to stop because I was scaring myself. So you don't want to miss this one. You have 4 cover options. This is cover A. Little ode to Lord Pumpkin for those of you who are into that. This is cover B. This is a tribute to the EC Comics, horror comics of the 50s.
That's the one I backed.
There you go. That's classic James, we'll call him. Wraith of God. This is the third option, which is the 1972 Marvel box variant cover. My favorite period of Marvel covers. And then, of course, there's just the wonderfully painted, illustrated cover by Chris Stevens, a friend of the show, a really good guy who contributed this. So you have 4 cover options. You can get all 4. You can choose just one. The interior on all of them is the same, so it's totally up to you. David Williams will be contributing a backup story featuring one of my characters called Impyrus. It's his origin story, but we got to hit 100K before we get there, because that is one of the stretch goals. You can get a Wraith Nouveau, we call this print. There's 500 available. They're all signed and numbered. You can add that onto your order.
Very Alphonse Mucho of you, Aaron.
Yes, well, I hide nothing. That is exactly what I was ripping off. So just seemed like a good idea at the time, and I kind of really liked how the piece came out. I offered the original for sale. It went, so I guess I did all right by one person anyway. Wraith of God Roughs Volume 3. This will be the 3rd volume of interior page layouts for the graphic novels. You get 48 pages in here. You can compare them to the finished product, kind of get an idea of the process I go through to getting from laying out a page to the finished product. We have the 4th in a series of 6 shot glasses featuring Empire Comics character logos. This is the Nightclub. The first 3 were Wraith, Garbage Man, and Kit Carter, and now we have the Nightclub. Collect all 6. And
just remember, folks, to drink responsibly. You don't want to get drunk and then fall all over your comics and ruin them.
That's right, but then you have to order them again to get new near mint copies. You can
wait a minute. Now I see why you're pushing the shot glasses.
Maybe. So you've got 3 clay. These aren't these cheapo plastic. These are these thick clay poker chips. Commemorative set of 3: Wraith, Esther, and the Werewolf that Dale Keown contributed to the very first issue. And if you need to play catch up, you can. We have Wraith of God #1 second printing right there. Both the black and white cover variant and the full color cover variant, or regular cover. This was a new cover designed specifically for the second printing. So the only way you can get this cover is by getting the second printing. Or you can get Wraith of God 2, Blood Hunters. This is my wraparound cover. If you say, well, Aaron, I know there was other cover options, you can go to my website and you can get them there. They're a little bit more expensive, but you get them right away as opposed to waiting for the campaign to be fulfilled. So whatever you want to do, it's all up to you. So anyway, I would encourage all you guys to back. There's 7 days left before we close this baby out. So we got a long way to go on this. I'd like to get a bunch more backers on there. I'd like to see this hit at least 1,000 backers before the closeout. And people have asked me, is it going to go in demand? Well, my books usually do go in demand. And we leave them open until the book is finished and goes to the printer. But again, I encourage you to back early rather than late if you're able, because it helps fund the project as we go forward in the early stages, which are
well, and also the fact of some of those items you have there are limited. So if you run out of them because others buy them up, you want to get it later, it may not be available later.
That's right. There you go. James knows. So there you go, guys. The link is in the description of this video. Also, a link to my website is in the description of this video. And now, James, give us your announcements again. You gave at the beginning of the show.
Okay, so as you guys know, I said I've been going heavy on YouTube. In fact, just another announcement I forgot to mention earlier on, but I'll mention here. I finally just hit 300 subscribers. So I will be doing a 300 subscriber live stream sometime this month. I just got to work out some things. I want to get some guests on and whatnot, and I'm going to do that. But I've got my sequential art showcase that I've just started. I've got another one coming up this week. I'll be doing with artist Andy Smith, which will be out next week. But before that is my new creation called Creative Conversations, where I get together with a comic creator of any stripe, not just artist, writer, editor, it could be anybody. And we get together, we talk about their work, their philosophies on it, and anything else that, might come up as you talk with people. And my first one is going to be dropping this Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It will be a premiere video, so I will be in a chat there with you guys if you guys want to talk with me live. And who knows, my guest may show up there as well. And the guest, of course, is the Bloody Red Baron himself, Mike Baron. So it's going to be a good time. I had a lot of fun doing it. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. And, I learned a few things about Mike Baron I didn't know. So, I mean, if I can learn something, I mean, come on, anybody can learn something.
There you go. The link to James's YouTube channel is in the description of this video. So you can go right over there and subscribe. It's free, folks. So just do it. And then you'll get notifications when James is posting his interviews in different shows. So you don't want to miss out on that stuff. Also, if you don't mind, would you hit the like and subscribe to this channel so we continue to grow and eventually catch Graham Nolan, who, and why is it important that I catch and pass Graham Nolan? Because Graham Nolan thinks Star Trek 1, the motion picture, is better than Star Trek 2, The Wrath of God, The Wrath of Khan. So, and we all know that's not true. So help me catch Graham by hitting the like and subscribe button. Now, James.
Citizen Ronan here. If I had a cannonball, I might have one for him if I had a cannonball for Citizen Ronan over here.
Well, what did he say? Well, James, since you are the guest, I will. I'll give you a little bit of love here. This is for you, Citizen Ronan. All right. Well,
where's Bugs Bunny with his scepter for you, Aaron?
Yeah, I don't hit myself. I just hit others. I delve out the pain to others. All right, you guys, it is time.
Is it time for Kelsey Watch?
Yes, it is. Here we go. Oh, I can't tell you how thrilled I am that the last couple of weeks I've actually found new and exciting. Well, I found new videos of Bigfoot that I hadn't seen before.
Don't write checks you can't cash, Aaron.
I know. That's why I took it back immediately. This is one I like to call hippie Bigfoot. You tell me. What are we looking at here? I don't really know, but I think it's hippie Bigfoot. You tell me. Here we go. Seems to be some long hair perhaps here. There we go. Or is that just a dude in a sheet? What is going on here?
I think that's
a dude in a sheet, isn't it? Look at the hair.
Yeah, I think that's Hillary Clinton still walking out in the woods after losing to Trump in 2016.
Maybe, but her hair is too long. Okay, so you can't really see much here. It looks kind of ghostly or whatever. But here, coming up here, look at there we go. Look at that. The long hair. It looks like Saruman or somebody walking around in a robe. And they're talking,
is it Gandalf? What is that?
Yeah, I was like, how is this Bigfoot? This is some hippie in a sheet. Look at that. Now, the funny thing about this video is I can't show the maybe I can. They take, allegedly, these guys, these two hillbillies see this and they take shots at it. Let's see if you can hear it.
Whatever this creature was, one of the men cocks back the firearm and fires 2 shots directly at the creature. The creature runs.
Could you guys hear that?
Yeah, I heard it.
Yeah. Why? I don't know if the chat did, because hippies can't afford a sheet, says Randy Howell. Creative Face says he was on his way to a Klan meeting.
Wow, I didn't know Bigfoot was racist.
He made his gown out of hemp. Yeah.
No, that's not true, because if he had made out of hemp, he would have smoked it.
Exactly. Paul Taylor says he heard mumbling. Well, the audio is not great anyway, but they took 2 shots at him allegedly, and then he fell into the bushes or ran away or something. So I don't know that if you saw something wandering out in the wood that looked like a hippie that you just open fire on it and then tell the cops, thought it was Bigfoot, man. So, you know, seems a little fakey to me, but them trying to pass this off as some sort of Bigfoot video. Come on, man. All right. So now this allegedly is a TikToker doing a video, and it's like you see part of his face in it, but it's what's going on behind him that is of interest. So I like to call this one Baby Bigfoot. So you tell me what you see here. Here we go. Baby Bigfoot. Now this is zoomed in more than it is in the actual video. That's why we're just seeing the dude's chin. But I mean, is that like just a baby gorilla in some? He's in some park or something filming this, or is that?
Well, I see where you got. I see where you got the reference image for the little Bigfoot you did in your book, Aaron.
Exactly. Well, I did that before this, so they ripped me off. Yeah, I don't know what I'm supposed to gather from this other than you know, at least the baby Bigfoot looks like it could be. That's the guy who stole it from Max Fear. Actually, he stole it from somebody else, so I don't feel bad. I mean, there's a performance here. I mean, if that's a kid in a suit or a little guy in a suit or whatever, you know, there's some effort put into the.
I give it a C plus.
I'm wondering though if that's like somebody's monkey or something, you know, and the whole thing is a setup. Citizen Ronan, of course, says it's TikTok, so it has to be real.
Real dumb.
Oh my gosh. Creative Face says it's the little robed guys from Phantasm. Wow. Talk about a bizarre reference. I saw that movie. Now, Creative Faye, I know you are nowhere near. You are like old enough to be my daughter, is what you are. And I saw that Phantasm when I was a little kid. So, well, not a little kid, but a teenager. So
Citizen Ronan's got an even more esoteric answer for this.
Oh, it's Chaka from Land of the Lost. That's perfect. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Antoine Dennison says everyone has a 4K camera in their pocket. No one can get a clear Bigfoot alien footage. I know, isn't it amazing how that happens to be the case? Now let's take a look. This is exactly what you're talking about here, Antoine, is that photographs are always blurry. This is a kale. This is, I don't like kale. This is a trail cam video or a picture, right? Now, anytime you see a trail cam picture of a deer, it's perfect. But when it's Bigfoot, it ain't perfect. So here we go. This is, again, it's not going to move. But that's supposedly a trail.
Did you just see that? They tried to transition it to try to say, look, we're going to make it more enhanced for you. And it blurred it even more.
I know. Here's an enhanced video. Go, how is this helping? So you basically got a guy.
Oh my God. It's a blotch. It's a Rorschach test.
I know. Well, it's clearly a guy in a costume, and then they blurred it up so you wouldn't know how bad the costume was, I guess.
Someone needs to tell someone to wipe the Vaseline off the lens.
Paul Taylor, I'm going to have to look for this. It says, sent you my brother's trail cam picture of a wild boar, clear as a bell. Of course it is.
Because it's not Bigfoot.
That's right. And then, of course, Art of Roy, why would it look at the trail cam? Why indeed? This is the kind of stuff that you get a failing grade in my class for. You need to wipe off the lens of your trail cam.
This is a D- grade here. This is like the kind of thing where you didn't do any of the work beforehand, and the night before you just slap something together real quick. Go, here you go, teacher. That's what this is.
Yep, that's exactly what it is, and I'm not going to stand for it. Now, this is one I like to call far away Bigfoot. So as you can imagine, it's probably going to be really good footage. But let's take a look here at the far away Bigfoot. All righty. Let's see if we can even see him. Oh, there he is right there. Look at how nice and blurry this image is. Gee, many Christmas. So here he is. He's got broad shoulders, and I mean, the whole thing is so blurred, you couldn't even tell. It could be a guy in a coat and pants for all we know.
This is a failing grade right here.
This is horrible.
They didn't even try.
No. Look, here's your freeze frame. What am I even seeing? This right here on his head, that's a leaf from that tree. Come on, Max. You got to do better than that if you expect me to steal your videos. Anyway, Max Fear does have a lot of good videos. You check out his channel. I'll give him a little plug since I'm stealing from him. Yeah, this is, I mean, how much work do you have to put into your post camera work to get it this blurry? I mean, you couldn't shoot a picture this bad if you tried. It is this big hulking thing, though. So,
homie needs to up his tech.
Yeah,
get a better camera.
Exactly. Paul Taylor says Andre the Giant Bigfoot is still the best Bigfoot. Of course, he's referring to the $6 Million Man episode where Bigfoot was an alien robot, which I guess makes as much sense as anything.
It's certainly more realistic than this is. It's more believable than this.
Now, Art of Roy, this is very true. He says, we caught a deer on our trail cam and it was a night shot. Ansel Adams couldn't have taken a better black and white pic. Yep, that's the truth. Except, again, though, there is the theory that Bigfoot is an interdimensional being, so he's always phasing in and out, and that's why he's always blurry. So there, maybe that's, we need to take that a little more seriously. Randy Howell says, Kelsey's Bigfoot family patrols the woods to protect their whiskey still. Possible. Possible there. All right, so I've got one more here. Now, this I like to call Scared Bigfoot. Now, this is probably the best one of the bunch. So a lot of action in it. I mean, a lot of action. So, but this portrays Bigfoot as kind of a chicken. So do we want our Bigfoots to be scaredy cats or ferocious beasts? You tell me what you think here. Again, nice and blurry, as we expect. Oh, look. Huh? Now, to see the guy in the suit is trying to be kind of ape-like. Look at him hunching, and is he wearing boots? I think he's got boots on. Are those boots? Those look like boots.
Those are boots.
Look like boots. Okay, and there he is running across the street. But he's got the arms flailing. I mean, James, there's effort. He's putting effort into the performance. They just didn't get the effort into the costume. Is the problem?
I would have liked the effort better if while he's running across the street, a car would have came by and just zinged him. That would have been.
But it sure looks like he's got boots on. Those are definitely boots.
Those are definitely boots. That is not a foot. That is a boot.
And that is a very baggy costume. That's not. But you notice how they put like leaves and bushes, like mangled in the fur of the costume. So it's like they're trying, but it's like idiots trying. You know what I mean? They're putting effort into it, but they don't understand that the whole concept is flawed from the beginning because the costume is so bad. But then they're putting like, well, let's put broken, branches and leaves on this bad costume. So they had the right idea, but the foundation isn't there.
I think this is one of the illegal immigrants or gotaways who just crossed the border and we don't know who they are. I think that's who this is.
Now look at that. Wait a minute. Look at that face. He looks like the Lorax. Look at the face. He's got like a mustache and a beard.
No, he's wearing one of those camo things you see like for like guys in the desert where like they wear it. It looks like leaves and stuff. And looks like these big heavy like wet looking like foliage. And it's like that's what this is. He's in one of those suits, the ghillie suit. That's what it's called.
Yeah,
He's in a ghillie suit.
Look at okay. Now look at the face. Does it look like he's got a mask on? Look at there's strings going back around his head.
Yes.
Look at that right there.
Well, even Bigfoot knows about COVID-19, so I'm sure he's wearing a mask.
Oh.
Bigfoot, he's worried about humans finding him, but he is worried about catching the virus.
I love the fact though that they went the extra mile and had him run across the street to get away. They could have ended it right there on the hill, but they didn't. They prolonged the agony of this. Although we cut, where's the film of him going all the way down the hill to the road? They just edited it out. It's like
Well, no, see, that's because they were waiting to see, are there any cars coming? We got to make sure there's no cars. Don't want you to get hit trying to run across the road. Hey, I like Randy Howell's idea. That works for me.
Was he? Let's see, Randy. We can dress Dale Keown in a Bigfoot costume to sneak him over the border. You might be onto something.
That'll work.
Captain Bippo says that looks like Lee Marvin in that Hunter movie. Oh, when he had like a ghillie suit on and okay.
Yeah.
Art of Roy saying no, it's Michael Landon. Okay. Marcus Killigrew. I think I fell asleep. Thanks, Marcus. Can you give us another plug for the show? Gee, Merry Christmas. Let's see. Lost his Letterman's jacket.
Hey, maybe Paul's got the answer for why we have the cut in the video.
He does a leap every couple of steps. Is that what you're referring
No,
to?
the next one down. He's got another one down. This is probably why they cut that scene so you didn't see him.
He probably fell over and started swearing, so they had to edit it out. Yeah, he tripped and fell. His boots weren't. Oh gosh. Well, there you go. I don't think we've seen any compelling evidence today to make me believe in Bigfoot, but it's always fun to see if perhaps this will be the video that changes our world, and so far hasn't really changed our world.
My advice to all Bigfoot watchers out there who want to get him on video is, when you're going out to get your pictures of him, make sure to tell him to take his COVID mask off before you start filming.
Exactly. Citizen Ronan sums it up here and says that was clear and yet just as crap. It's funny when we get like a clear video, it's like, or clearer video, then we get like a really poor costume. Or you get a good costume and a fuzzy video, or you don't have the performance. I mean, it's just, there's so many factors that go into making a Bigfoot video that these guys are amateurs and we need some professionals to get involved. And that's why I keep threatening at some point here to make my own Bigfoot video. It's like, I just don't want to spend money on the costume, but
well, Past Master Dan kind of put you in your place here, Aaron, about all this.
Well, and he should believe in me, but I want to believe in him. But I did when I was a kid, but as I've gotten older, the evidence is piling up in the wrong direction. So I just, what can I say?
Yes, Paul, he can. Humans may not be able to catch Bigfoot, but believe me, he cannot escape the virus.
That's right. He's running to his pharmacy to get his latest.
That's right. He's about to get some ivermectin.
All right, guys, that's our show for today. I want to thank Sequential Treasures for being here. Again, I want you to know that there's a link in the description of this video that take you right to his YouTube channel. You want to run over there and subscribe to get all the great content that he is providing. Also, you'll find links for my Wraith of God 3 Fear Hollow graphic novel and my website in the description of this video. I want to thank all of you for your super chats and those of you just participating in the chat. We appreciate it because I couldn't do a show without you. Thank you, James, for coming on. It was great having you.
Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific. That's when you want to be at my channel. That's when we're going to see the very first Creative Conversations with Mike the Bloody Red Baron.
That's right. So get out and vote and go watch James. That's what you want to do. All right, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. I'll be packing up Kit Carter books to ship out to you tomorrow. So enjoy your evening, and we will see you next time right here on Aaron Live. Good night, everybody.
Peace out.